Thank you very much for your introduction. And of course, today, after a long day, having shopping here is important to also we do some sharing. Okay, so I come up with this topic because it's pretty interesting and managing tenancy dispute. Hi there. Good evening. My name is Ivy Eyu. I'm from Orange Tea and Thai. I'm the principal trainer in Orange Tea, and I help to develop training materials for agents to attend courses. So that's why today is a part of the sharing of one of my trainings for the agents. Okay. So just a disclaimer that whatever case study we shared is either from the press, the news, and social media, not exactly our case, but it is just for referencing. More importantly, that I'll be giving you solutions on how we can actually manage all this tenancy dispute. So can agents actually resolve landlord-tenants issue? It is a common scenario that between landlords and tenants, we all wish to have a very smooth tenancy. However, okay, if you actually do on your own as a landlord or even as a tenant, you do not know who are they, right? Especially as a foreigner coming to Singapore. Okay, it's your first time renting. You are not sure of how the legal matters on tenancy and even how do you go about looking for a unit. Of course, there's a lot of social media, okay, and a lot of different sharing on platforms. So we are also concerned about rental scams, right? It has been around since the COVID situation. So these are certain things that even as a foreigner tenants, when you want to rent a property in Singapore, you will take note. The other side, as a landlord, okay, you could be an investor or a property owner who owns your HDB more than 5 years, you are eligible to rent out. And then you are concerned who stays in your house. Correct. Because if you were to do it on your own to find tenants, usually you will use those different websites to post listings for room rental or whole unit. But how can the landlord actually verify the status of the tenants, especially they are foreigners who come to Singapore to work? So vice versa, engaging an agent is one of the solution we can provide because an agent actually verifies the landlord's eligibility and also the tenant's eligibility. That's the reason why throughout the period of tenancy, the agent just don't hand over and walk away. For us, being 24/7, right? Sometimes things may happen along the way. I have certain cases where tenants lost their keys when they are traveling, lost their luggage. And then the thing is that most Singaporean landlords would like to keep a set of keys. So at the last minute thing, yes, I would suggest that I will go to my landlord to take up the spare keys and help them to open door. Now, what if the landlord did not have a set of keys? Then in that case, I will give them the number to the locksmith. And then no choice, right? Correct. Things happen. So we do not know when 24/7 anything may happen. So according to our CEA newsletter, CEA is referring to Council of Estate Agent. So Council of Estate Agent has been established since 2010. And through the years, there are countless of newsletters shared in the public and also as a guideline to agents like us. So in this newsletter mentioned in January 2017, there is this particular topic. Can agents resolve landlords and tenants issue? It is a common scenario for landlords and tenants to run into issues during the tenancy period. And we talk about for HDB-wise, minimum 6 months to maybe 2 or 3 years, depends on the subletting approval. Whereas for rental of private property, it's a minimum of 3 consecutive months. But in general, if this foreigner is working in Singapore, usually their work permit lasts for minimum 2 years and subsequently renewal. So that's why in the market practice, there can be a 1 year or 2 years tenancy. And then when we do renewal, of course, it's also something to take note because the passes may not be valid or maybe the tenant changed job. Okay, so these are the little things that we look at before we move on to the tenancy dispute. So of course, in such case, both party, landlords and tenants, may try to look for us being the agent as we are the one who conclude the deal, right? So there are also landlord's agent and tenant's agent. Okay, so bear in mind that you can be represented by an agent at your own. Doesn't mean that the landlord only engage, but the tenant himself also can do so. Okay, so Singapore is a free resale market. So both sides, landlords and tenants, can have your own respective agents. And this actually prevents from having major dispute because each of the agent represent the interest of the landlords or the tenants. Okay, so when we talk about the agents who handled the rental transactions, we help all the way from the beginning where we talk about marketing, sourcing, and to qualify the landlords and tenants. Okay, so here comes a case study. So I actually went forward to not just looking for minor repairs, major repairs. I also looked at there are some landlords and tenants cases, especially in this CNA news that was mentioned that this particular foreigner actually stays in this property for more than 1 or 2 years. Okay, so for most of the tenants, they may have pets in their property. So this particular case was highlighted, says that this landlord actually locks the expat out over rental dispute. What is the rental dispute over here? It's actually the late payment of rent, which is also very common in our dispute. But why is this landlord taking extra measures to do this? The thing is that, first of all, this tenant did not inform the landlord there are pets in the property. First thing. So as a tenant itself, whatever number of occupier it is, include your pets, should be mentioned during the beginning of tenancy. So I do believe maybe what happened is this tenant, he's a foreigner, he's not very sure of what are the rules and regulations, and this is a private property. There is a possible way to inform the landlord that you are keeping pets. But this is one situation. The next situation is that from this case itself, they didn't mention about what exactly happened. Okay, so I actually did some research and I overheard that it was because this tenant actually paid rent late. That's why it has been chasing like maybe a couple of months. Okay, coincidentally, it's one of our agents' case because I posted this sharing in our leaders chat, and then we have some news on this. Okay, so back to this. This tenant is a foreigner. He stays at this condo unit, okay, located near to Somerset area. So he went overseas, okay? He went overseas and then he have people, we call it a pet sitter, that is supposed to take care of the cats that he has at home. So this pet sitter will assess the unit, and this particular unit has this thing called a private lift. Okay, have you heard about condominiums that has private lift access? Directly from the lift, you go into that unit. Okay, so this particular pet sitter is supposed to take care of his pets. And then subsequently, the pet sitter realized that the access card cannot go to this unit. And of course, the first thing, the pet sitter contacted the tenant who is overseas. And then this tenant get panicked. He will contact the landlord's agent. And subsequently, as the story goes, okay, the family has went to France and visit their relative. That's why they arranged a pet sitter on a daily visit. And then when the family returned about a couple of weeks later, they found that the key card of their apartment was not working. So the first thing is that he was very upset that the landlord actually went to the management office to stop the access to the property. This was exactly what happened to, according to the news. And then subsequently, okay, they reported this to the Pet Society of Singapore. Okay, says that the landlord did not inform them and stop the access to the property. But in actual fact, this CNA news didn't really look at what is actually the reason why the landlord stopped the access. We won't know unless you are somebody who is involved in this case. But why would this landlord want to take such a measure to stop access? So later on, after I read about this and actually have some feedback from the agent who actually transacted this deal, he says that the tenant didn't pay rent for 2 months. So they have actually tried their best to recover the rent. So that's why, first of all, the landlord is not aware there are pets in the property. Okay? And then the landlord took quite a serious measure. He should have actually talked to the tenant a few more times instead of going into this. But then again, everybody has their own way of handling situation. Okay, so there are agents involved in this case. Subsequently, from what I understand, that they did not communicate fluently. That's why this thing was highlighted. Okay. So again, this is just one of the many example. Not very extreme, but it's important to know that communication between landlord and tenants is important. Okay. So the second part here is like, although they were barred from entering to the unit, right? They do allow the pet sitter to access. Yeah. So eventually, the pets was taken care of. It's just that the news has highlighted to the Pet Society Singapore. Okay. Then of course, everyone was worried about the condition itself, but more importantly is that eventually this tenant have to settle his rental arrears with the landlord. Okay, so this actually gives us an idea that we should not take the extreme measures to stop the tenant from accessing. Instead, you should actually communicate more with the tenants to prevent from any dispute. Okay, so second case study, we're going to talk about tenant. Okay, just now was the example of a landlord being a little bit extreme in his action. This one is about a tenant who actually didn't take care of the property. Okay, so in this another CNA news, they all heard about the different types of tenants who did not take care of the property. But this one is a little bit more extreme because the tenant basically destroyed the house. Okay, so there has been footage of what has been done to the flat where this landlord shows damages in his TikTok account. And then it was kind of went viral. Okay, and then the property agent actually shared about how he received the house. Now, then again, property agent, usually what we do is we have an inventory list before they hand over the property at the beginning of a tenancy. However, okay, the inventory lists are usually the normal black and white paper. That is it can be actually printed out. And then subsequently, right, there may not be any pictures taken. So from this case, they didn't mention about the inventory, but they mentioned about the property agent who took over the property back from this tenant actually take a lot of pictures and videos and show it to the landlord. Then of course, the thing is that the whole wardrobe was actually dismantled, fall down. That means it's supposed to be a built-in, but eventually the whole wardrobe was actually came down. And then of course, from this video itself to the landlord, is very devastating because he spent money on the renovation. So usually when we rent out a HDB or a private residential, we have this thing called built-in wardrobe, okay, and kitchen cabinets because you need to have a rentable place, correct? So all these fixture and fittings are part of the inventory list. However, okay, for some reason, it's just fallen off and the tenant didn't do anything to it, okay? So again, this is one of the many cases that may happen in terms of getting a tenant who didn't take care of your property. So being a landlord, of course, this is also quite a big concern. Okay, so let's share with you a case study. Now, this case study is from one of my team agents. So she asked me for a second opinion. So usually 2 months before a tenancy ends, the landlords will ask the tenant if they want to renew tenancy, right? So if the tenant don't renew the tenancy, we will go forward to market the property to the new prospective tenants. And what happened is that agents will make arrangement with the current tenant to do viewing. Okay, so 2 months before expiry. So when she was doing viewing with the prospective new tenants to be, she realized that this house, certain things has not been maintained well. So being a real estate agent, we remember how we hand over the property to the current tenant about 2 years ago. So she was very concerned. She says that, wow, the repair issue, don't know how we're going to settle this. So eventually, throughout the tenancy period, there were many minor repairs of a concern. Now, all these minor repairs may be negligence. Sometimes the tenant says that, oh, maybe at the end of the tenancy, then I one shot do all. However, sometimes some repairs need to be attended to as soon as possible. If not, it will create even further damage. Okay, so let's look at how the property looks like. So of course, I give a suggestion that since before the tenancy period, you still have about 1 to 2 months, you can do a pre-inspection to check the house. Meaning that we do this step first, according to our inventory list, and we also suggest to the tenants and landlords to find quotation, because sometimes it takes a little bit more detail. It may be 1 or 2 quotation before we finalize who to engage to do the repair. So what to do during the pre-inspection? We will do this thing called inventory list of the current tenancy. And of course, we take pictures to prepare the pre-inspection report. And from here, we identify together with the suppliers like handyman, plumber, and workers contact. That means we stand by all these different service provider. Here are the pictures of why she's so concerned. Okay, you can see the tiles popping up. So according to the handyman and contractor, they say that this is a general wear and tear. So how do we actually ascertain whether is it a damage or a wear and tear? Because there is no cracks on the tiles. That's why the handyman and the contractor, he tells us that it could be the cement that they have wear and tear, and then it just went off. So that's why the whole tiles pop up. And also because Singapore, we have a humid weather, sometimes very, very hot, sometimes very, very wet, correct? So the contraction of certain fixture and fittings may be affected too. Also depends on the weather. Now next thing, this parquet flooring that is around the bed and in between near to the center of the room are usually an area that has always been used. That means more frequently used, except for underneath the bed. So we have seen very significant wear and tear. However, the tenant tried to put this one, to prevent from further damage. But in this particular case, we look at the inventory list from the onset. So this agent has actually done a condition report. So the condition report show that there has been sand and varnish on the parquet flooring before the handover. So again, yes, there is a significant wear and tear. However, the tenant could have, put a carpet over or some protection instead of, having such huge scratches. So these are the few things being identified. Okay, next, we see that tenants do DIY, very common, right? At home, you got small little thing. You don't want to get a handyman to come. So the tenant actually stick oversupply of super glue. And it's so significant that I can tell you, landlord don't accept this condition one. So again, it's also for us to share with the tenant. Yes, we know that you have done your part to try to fix up that repairs. But again, aesthetically not so nice lah, huh? Okay. Now, what is the main concern? Okay, have you ever seen a window panel lamination being burned like this? I tell you, it's very rare. So this unit has a west sun facing in one of the common bathroom. And this landlord has been staying there for 5 years before they rent out. It's a condominium. So this landlord actually during the handover 2 years ago has shared with the tenant that for this window, it's good to close it in the afternoon. Because why? It's a west sun facing. So you can also see that over here, many years ago when the landlord put this lamination, actually it's like a DIY job because there's a gap. So based on the photos and I've seen the actual unit, I give an advice that we need to replace the 3 pieces, okay? But however, the tenant is not happy. He says that he did not purposely damage the window. But the thing is that he did not follow landlord's instruction to close the window in the afternoon. So again, this is something you can classify either a wear and tear or, replacement. But when we do a pre-inspection report, we take pictures of everything here and we try to mediate lah. So first of all, of course, we get the contractor or the handyman to come down, and then for us as an agent, we will help to do picture inventory on the pre-inspection. So in this way, we identify what are the items that need to be repaired. And then from here, we can actually do some repairs during when the tenant is still staying in the house, or some of the repair like the sanding of the parquet flooring can only be done after the tenant move out. So these are things that we can actually suggest to resolve this possible issue. So what is the main possible solution? We look at the facts of the case. So we go back to the window panel. Okay, the window panel haven't settled yet. So one of the window is discolored as due to the tenant did not follow landlord's instruction to close the window in the afternoon. And of course, the west sun caused the deterioration of the lamination. Okay, so fair wear and tear also need to consider, right? Yeah, because the sun is the act of God. It's something that we cannot control also. Okay, then the next point number 3, lamination of the all 3 panels need to be replaced. Okay, so we can get the contractor in to give a quotation. And for this particular case, my solution is that is divide into 1/3, meaning that I get the tenant to pay for 1 panel, the landlord pay for 2 panel. Okay, so of course landlord feel very unfair, correct? But however, I give another assurance to the landlord. The next tenancy when it comes, we do not want history to repeat itself. So I will mention in the tenancy agreement and condition report that the new tenant will need to close the window in the afternoon, so as we don't want to have the same issue again. And of course, this time round, let's engage a professional window lamination person to change the whole piece. And to be very frank, the tenant has agreed on most of the repair. We also try to resolve. So don't because of one repair, it delays the whole thing. So we look at the big picture. So this is how we can negotiate as an agent between the landlords and tenants to give a fair solution. But then again, case-to-case basis, both parties need to give and take, correct? There is no perfect situation that one party pays all. It's just that we try to mediate and divide the costing accordingly. So next, give a solution to your landlord that we do not want history to repeat itself. That's why I put it in the new tenancy for the new prospective tenant. And I can tell you after that, the window do not have any issue, really. So case to case itself, it's a communication that we as agents serving landlords or tenants so that we can try to give each other a possible solution. Okay. So according to our CEA newsletter back again, what are actually the responsibility of a salesperson? Over here, these are the various short verses, but more importantly, let's look at the main one. That's called provide help and advice to you throughout the rental period. However, okay, it's a very gray area, correct? Whether we will advise accordingly to the minor repairs, major repair, break lease. Eventually, we need to get the different supplier in. So we are only property agent. We are not handyman, contractor, or renovation people or aircon to give you advice. More importantly is that we work together with the supplier to give a solution, a possible solution to our landlords and tenants, okay? And of course, being a tenant's agent, you need to ask your tenant to do the e-stamping. Now, what is e-stamping? It's actually reporting to IRAS where this tenancy agreement for what price and through the period. Because in the event, the clients wants to claim from each other, another place we can advise is to small claim court. Because small claim court handles damages or claims less than 20,000. So we don't go directly to a lawyer. That is something. So as a salesperson, we are not considered legally trained, but we need to work together and also share it with our landlord, the different profession to seek for legal advice, for second opinion, correct? Of course, some of the landlords, they may have a higher budget. They want to straight away go into lawyer, but then again, we all depends on situations, okay? So these are some of the general responsibility of a salesperson. So thank you very much. Today will be my sharing. I hope you can get some takeaway. And then we'll leave it to the MC. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for the Deputy Branch Associate Director of Orange Time, Miss Ivy Eyu. Ladies and gentlemen, All right, ma'am, right now, the moment we have been actually waiting for, this is the time for you guys to please take out your phones and you're going to scan the QR code for which you're going to get a chance to take part in the lucky draw after completing a mini survey. And that gives you a chance to walk away with a pair of tickets to Macau. Now, while we're doing all of this, if anybody needs help, please let us know. So please take out your phones, and if you want to win this chance, this is a golden opportunity. At the same time, if you need any help, please let us know. Now, before I go into while waiting for them, just a fun fact about our speaker here. Okay, she is a very, experienced agent, but there's something very interesting about her. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that Miss Ivy Eyu is also the finalist for Mrs. Singapore? Round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. Another fun fact, I am Mr. Universe for Mars. Alamak, you catwalk anyhow. See this John, huh? Okay, ma'am, before we continue with the survey, as you're still waiting for them to finish, is there anything you'd like to share further on your slides? Or anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
One of the common tenancy dispute is late rental.
Late rental?
Yeah, when there are genuine reasons sometimes why the tenants pays late. But from the beginning of the tenancy, you can actually indicate that on a certain day, it has to be paid. And of course, the tenant can do a bank standing order because you cannot do a gyro unless you are a corporation. So our tenancy agreement is very important with all these terms and conditions as set out. So in the event, really, if there's any dispute, right, we can only advise our client to go to small claim court. It's based on the tenancy agreement. Because the tenancy agreement is a private agreement between landlords and tenants. So it's very important that you engage an agent to help you with that documents. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Ivy, I think one of the most common questions a lot of people also have is the tenancy agreement, we as agents, we know, but I think most of the common people don't know. Is it important to get it stamp duty?
Yes, it's very important to get it stamp duty. First of all, it's a both-way protection. Being the landlord, you need to inform IRAS that it's been rented out. That's why when the tenants do the stamp duty, right, IRAS is informed of the amount of rental and also the period so that IRAS can go forward to indicate the property tax that the landlord need to pay. On the other hand, as a tenant, whether you are a foreigner or Singaporean PR, you also want your tenancy agreement to be legit, right? In the event anything happen, you can use this to get a second opinion from the lawyer or the small claim court. So without e-stamping, right, your tenancy agreement will only be a private agreement between you and the landlord. You cannot use it in the court.
Okay, sure. All right, now I think we're going to start off with our Q&A session. Okay, we have 2 questions already lined up for you. You can actually see the board right on the screen. The first question is, hi, I'm currently renting, not renting. They changed the question so fast, okay.
So
Times
fast.
change, yeah. All right, this question is, how do we verify the expats passes, ma'am?
Okay, as a general public, even without an agent, you can also verify the aspect passes by using this SG Work Pass app. It's actually from our Ministry of Manpower. This app can be downloaded either the iPhone or the Android, and you can actually scan that tenant's passes. Now, there are also some tenants who are still overseas and not in Singapore yet. Then they will have this thing called in principle approval by ICA. So before they can enter into Singapore on a long-term wise, whether it's a student pass or work permit or EP, they will need to apply for the passes from MOM. Okay? And then subsequently, after they apply the passes, ICA will give this thing called in principle approval. So there are various ways to do it. Either the in principle approval letter, or they are already in Singapore, they should have the work pass that you can do a scanning at the SG Work Pass app.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, whoever has asked that question. Moving on, do we have a next question, Mr. John? Yes, we have one more. And the question is going to be shown on the screen very shortly, and it goes something like, well, I've got so many questions. Okay, this is a very interesting one. Hi, I'm currently renting a condo and staying in it for only 5 months. The aircon unit suddenly got water leak. I'm thinking that the expenses should be shouldered by the owner. A very common question, yeah?
Yeah, common, because I would say 90% of the residential properties, we all have aircon units, right? Okay, so this tenant mentioned he only stayed for 5 months. Let's look at his tenancy agreement. My advice is that in the tenancy agreement, they have this thing called minor repairs cost. They also have another one called the servicing of aircon units by the quarter servicing. So if he has done his regular servicing, because he only stayed for 5 months, he should have done his first servicing, and he should be asking the aircon servicing guy what happened to the aircon. Why? Because the landlord should have done a prior aircon servicing before handover to him, which is more than 5 months ago. So it could be his usage, or it could be something wear and tear. But then again, he can discuss with the landlord's agent on this, and then get that same aircon guy who maintained that unit maybe a month ago to come and do a second check. Now, if the landlord is not happy with the result, the landlord can also get his own aircon contractor to give a second opinion before they come into a conclusion what caused the leak. Because the leak could be usage of the aircon units for the last 5 months, or it could be the aircon servicing done is not sufficient. We won't know. So it's good to get a second opinion before they go into who should bear the expenses.
Yes, all right. I hope that answers the question, whoever asked. And that was a very unique question. It's something very, very common, yeah? I think we have, do we have one more? Yeah, okay, we have one more. And this one is shown on the screen. It is called, what is the resolution for scratches on the bedroom parquet floor? Who is responsible? I think it's the cat.
Yeah, that one is similar to my case study just now, right? One of the bedroom has the parquet flooring. Now, first of all, before we take over, did the landlord do sand and varnish is one thing. Second thing is that we do this thing called condition report. So the landlord's agent should be doing a condition report to show what is the existing condition before handover. But in your question, I'm not sure whether he's asking for a 1 year or 2 year period, because sometimes it is within the first 30 days. Now, if it's within the first 30 days, the tenant has this thing called warranty period. He can report to his agent and to landlord's agent what is the condition of the unit handed over to him and any possible scratches and everything. But if it's after that 1 month period, the first 30 days, then of course as a tenant, you still continue to monitor in the event there are, wallpaper peeling or even other scratches. So periodically, as a tenant, you are staying there every day. But I don't expect you to check everything every day. But it's just that you have to notice if there are certain adverse situations that happens to the flooring. Now, back to this question, who is responsible? We have to look at the period of tenancy. If the tenant stays for the first 3 months, he found orders, or the first 1 month, yes, it will be the landlord's side that will rectify for him. But if the tenant has stayed for more than 6 months or even 2 years, then there could be a possible wear and tear. And sometimes certain things drop on the parquet flooring that cause the scratch. Right. So all this we have to ask the professional parquet flooring specialist to come and do a verification and then give a quotation, and then likely we can be under a minor repair cost. Yeah, depends on your TA also. Nowadays, inflation is very real. Minor repairs, all this, we have to do $200 and above. Last time was 100 to 150. Yeah. So again, this one can be also under a minor repair during the tenancy period. But again, some tenants, because they got furniture there, right, they don't want to do it. You can also do it actually after the handover, because again, there could be even more scratches along the way. There is no right or wrong solution, but we try our best to give the best solution to pacify both sides. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That is important. That's the reason why it's important to hire Orange Tea agents only, okay?
Oh. Okay.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Yes, we have one more. And this is, what recourse does the landlord have if the tenant refuses to leave?
Okay. Then again, what do you mean by tenant refuse to leave? At the end of tenancy, they want to renew or don't renew. So I may want to know more details. But in general, if the tenant refuses to leave after the end of tenancy, okay, usually won't happen lah. Because why? Before 2 months before the expiry of tenancy, we already renegotiate the renewal. But for some reason, okay, if the tenant refuses to leave, first of all, we must see if we can contact the tenant or not. If we can contact the tenant, we try to ask them the reason. being a landlord or tenants agent. But there are tenants who run away also, never pay rent. So this is also could be a situation. But if you talk about the actual legal recourse, you will need to make a police report first, subsequently look for a lawyer with regards to your case. Because the police report is just for a record purposes. Now, why make a police report? So that you have evidence that you have tried to contact the tenant and the tenant refused to leave. And you must show the police station officer that you have tried contacting the tenant via WhatsApp, email, and even go knock door. So if you have engaged an agent, usually what I recommend is the agent help to contact the tenant first, find out the reason. But for some reason, the tenant don't respond, we take records of the email, SMS, and phone call, and then we go to the police to make a report. So we are not asking the police officer to do anything because this is a personal dispute. But we want to have that police report before we go to the lawyer. Because the lawyer wants to ask for evidence, right? So same thing, because the tenant is not leaving and is not contactable. So it's a very big concern. Correct. So of course, more importantly, that we need to stay calm first. We take the things step by step. Yeah. So if they look for the lawyer, yes, they can have the eviction order if they want to go ahead lah.
Okay.